The law of thermodynamics will not be denied. And Bitcoin is the technically superior asset. It is the economically superior asset. And it is the ethically superior asset. And believe it or not, the vast majority of the disinterested population around the world will eventually, given enough time and information, realize that. And they are realizing that. And that's what's happening in front of your face. It's not pretty. It's not pleasant. But this is the way that Bitcoin rises above the noise and establishes its dominance as the world's greatest crypto asset network. I think that if you get people to acknowledge that Bitcoin is an asset with a period, then Bitcoin 10x's from here. We don't really have to conclude anything else.
Michael Saylor, recognized as the king of Bitcoin, expresses a compelling belief that the collaboration between BlackRock and Bitcoin ETFs will gradually lead to a 10x increase in the Bitcoin price. This transformation is not expected to happen immediately, but over time. The driving force behind this optimistic outlook lies in the legitimization of Bitcoin on a global scale, as recognized by the U.S. government, and the SEC. Saylor contends that this acknowledgement positions Bitcoin as a legitimate asset, laying the groundwork for substantial and sustained growth. According to Saylor, this legitimization is merely the initial phase. He envisions a subsequent wave of adoption where billions of people worldwide embrace Bitcoin, resulting in a remarkable 100x increase in its price. To gain further insights into Saylor's perspective, the video encourages viewers to stay engaged until the end. In the concluding segment, Saylor elucidates why he views Bitcoin not just as a digital currency but as a powerful instrument of empowerment. He predicts that its value will surpass that of tech giants like Apple, Google, Facebook, or Microsoft, exponentially increasing its worth over time.
People are losing confidence in technology investments and in stock and equity investments right now. If you look at the performance of the S&P and the NASDAQ and most conventional companies, they've hit a wall. And so investors in the equity market are scratching their head and they're increasingly fearful. They've got high interest rates, they've got inflation, they've got regulation, they've got trade barriers. So they're looking around. The commercial real estate market took off in 2020 because interest rates went to zero, and so the cap rates of these companies were extraordinary, and the multiples on commercial real estate were extreme. And there's always like a 3-year lag. Like you and me, we sit around our pool in March of 2020 and we go, oh my, these commercial office buildings are going to be empty. Who's going to want this space? Well, it takes 3 years for people to go, wow, commercial occupancies are low. Who wants the space? So sometimes you don't really want to know 3 years in advance, or at least you got to think about it. But I think investors are getting disenchanted with real estate. They're getting disenchanted with equity. They're getting concerned. I mean, the entire commodity thing is a concern. Commodities don't work, and they're realizing that that's a challenge. So they're also losing confidence, right, in their ownership of these properties, right? You've seen so many people had their assets seized or frozen, and that's continuing. So Bitcoin is emerging, A, as digital gold, B, its proposition is gold is stronger than ever because gold has not performed at all in 2.5 years, and Bitcoin is beating every asset class in the same time period. So the gold hypothesis or thesis is much stronger. Bitcoin as digital property is much stronger. The idea that I could buy $1 million worth of Bitcoin and move it anywhere in the world is becoming appealing to people as they start to struggle with property taxes, and they know there's going to be an increase in tax over time. So Bitcoin has emerged as a digital commodity better than gold, as a digital property better than commercial real estate. It's emerging as an alternative to people that have seen their residential property monetized, and it's also emerging as a world's monetary index, because as the regulators differentiate between Bitcoin and everything else, right? As they hammer over and over and over again, Bitcoin is an asset without an issuer. It is unique. As that happens, right, the significance of Bitcoin being that green ticker in the lower right corner of a CNBC, television episode or newscast, or Bitcoin being at the top of the masthead of the Wall Street Journal every day, right? That's sending a message to the world. This is the world's global monetary index. In fact, this is the greatest of the world's global monetary indexes. And I think Bitcoin has successfully morphed from being speculative, scary, digital asset to legitimate monetary index, legitimate monetary asset everywhere in the world. And, we've talked about this before. I think that if you get people to acknowledge that Bitcoin is an asset with a period, then Bitcoin 10x's from here. Like, we don't really have to conclude anything else. I have my hierarchy of investors. It's like a 5-part hierarchy. Okay, here are Bitcoin investors. There's the Bitcoin denier, like the Peter Schiff. Bitcoin is tulips. It doesn't exist. It's a scam, right? Ever. The Bitcoin deniers have actually been discredited, right? They've not got no credibility left. When the head of the CFTC, the SEC, the White House, Congress, Senate, the Treasury, the head of the central banks of Europe and the United States, when the Wall Street Journal, the New York Times, when CNBC, when they all acknowledge Bitcoin as an asset, the deniers just look silly. So the deniers have kind of been silenced. Now you've got the skeptics. Skeptics are those that say, oh, Bitcoin, it's an asset. It may be digital gold. It's too good to be true. So the government will ban it. Like, follow me that again. It's really good. It's so good that the government's going to ban it. That's the skeptic, right? They're not denying. They're just saying, well, someone's going to take it away from you. Okay, well, that was a very loud refrain 3 years ago. And you heard that from bankers and from big investors. You've even heard it 2 years ago and 1 year ago. But if you're reading the 10,000 pages of lawsuits right now, and if you're looking what's going on in Congress and the Senate, it's pretty obvious they're not taking it away from you guys, right? At the end of the day, the one thing that the regulators everywhere in the world are trying to tell you is if you operate a crypto exchange, you can sell and buy Bitcoin. That's what they're trying to tell you. Bitcoin is good, it's ethical, it's an asset without an issuer, it's real, it's an innovation. We don't know what we think of it, but it is tangible. So the skeptics are actually proven wrong as well. And now we move to the last 3 categories. The investor, the technocrat, and the maximalist. Investors are people that say, Bitcoin's a digital asset. I think maybe I'll buy some, maybe I'll short it. It's correlated to the NASDAQ. No, it's uncorrelated to the NASDAQ. No, it's negatively correlated to the NASDAQ. They're like traders, they change their mind, but if they acknowledge that it's something, then they need 1% of it. Okay, we're actually seeing a migration, and a lot of people are coming on board as investors and traders, and that's not a bad thing. That's a good thing. I think the regulators and the mainstream media are doing a great job of orange pilling Bitcoin investors, and this is maybe the first and greatest asset class since the creation of the S&P 500, right? And since the creation of the S&P index or the Vanguard index, right? This is the biggest thing for them. So, yeah, we like investors. The technocrat is what I was with regard to Apple in 2009. If you'd asked me, I said, Apple's going to be a digital monopoly, a mobile monopoly. They're going to crush everybody. They're going to get 1 billion users. They're going to make huge amounts of money. The stock's going to go up by a factor of 10. Okay, if you believe that Microsoft is going to own the business software market and Google is going to own the search market and Apple's going to own the mobile market, then you're a technocrat, a techno investor. And pretty much every obscenely rich person that you know in this world was a technocrat. The Mark Zuckerbergs, the Larry Pages, the Sergey Brins, the Steve Jobs, all of them the Zuckerbergs, the Jeff Bezos of the world. They're technocrats, right? A lot of people made a lot of money being a technocrat. And so if you believe in if you understand Bitcoin and you're a technocrat, what you say is, Bitcoin is the world's dominant digital monetary network. That's what Cathie Wood just said on CNBC just today to Andrew Ross Sorkin. She said, hey, it's the world's greatest global monetary network and it's going to go to $600,000 to $1 million a coin. That's our base case. Technocrat. And then she went on to say, yeah, we like Tesla. We like technology, right? That's okay. Those people are great. Warren Buffett eventually bought Apple Computer. Carl Icahn eventually bought Apple Computer, right? Those people, once they buy, they'll hold. I started out as a technocrat, and I think anybody that understands technology says, well, it's 95% of the proof of work in the world, maybe more. It's absolutely dominant. The next closest thing is 1%. So it doesn't take a stretch to say Bitcoin is the digital monetary network destined to provide a digital monetary network to billions and billions and billions of people in the next 1 to 2 decades. And on that basis, it should go up by a factor of 100. And we're winning those people. We're going to get them. But the last type of investor is the maximalist. Okay, and here's my definition of maximalist. Jack Dorsey said, Bitcoin is an instrument of economic empowerment. I heard those words. They stuck with me my entire life. When I first bought Bitcoin, I said, it's the world's greatest digital gold network. It's going to be better than Apple Computer. But when I heard Jack Dorsey speak, I said, Bitcoin is an instrument of empowerment for 8 billion people. It's an ethical good. It's a utilitarian entitlement to all 8 billion people in the world. It gives property rights. It gives freedom. It gives a hope of sovereignty. That's a little bit better than the value proposition of Apple, Google, Facebook, Amazon, and Microsoft, which I like. If you believe that Bitcoin is an instrument of empowerment, then you're a maximalist, right? People don't. When I owned Apple stock, I didn't think it was going to cure half of the ills in the world and provide property rights to everybody in China or Africa. I just thought it was a really good investment with a technology lever, so much leverage it was unstoppable. I said it's unstoppable, like Amazon's unstoppable, like Google's unstoppable, like Bitcoin is unstoppable. However, the difference with Bitcoin is it's not just unstoppable, right? It's inevitable and it's ethical. And so for that reason, I think it's the most important thing I've ever done. And you don't have to be disinvested from everything else in your life. You can own a building, own Apple stock. You can believe in supporting your local mayor. You can actually own farmland in Kansas, and you can actually mine for silver, or you can run a natural gas well, and you can still be a Bitcoin maximalist. Right? What differentiates Bitcoin maximalists is say, this is not just an unstoppable digital network. This is an ethical imperative. And if you believe it's an ethically good thing, then you become as passionate as Jack Dorsey is, as everybody in this room is, right, as I am. And I think that ultimately is what differentiates the decision to support Bitcoin from the decision to support gold or natural gas or oil or any given corporate stock or invest in a building. Those are just mercenary investments, but this is a mission.
Michael Saylor, often acknowledged as the king of Bitcoin, delves into the transformative potential of Bitcoin in the global financial landscape. Saylor envisions that BlackRock's involvement and the integration of Bitcoin ETFs could result in a significant 10x increase in Bitcoin's value. This vision reflects the shifting paradigm, showcasing the growing legitimacy and acceptance of Bitcoin within major financial institutions. However, Saylor emphasizes that this is merely the commencement of a broader trend. Saylor's belief extends beyond financial institutions, as he envisions the widespread adoption of Bitcoin by billions of people globally. This expansive adoption, according to Saylor, hints at a future where Bitcoin's value could exponentially surpass the valuations of tech giants such as Apple, Google, Facebook, and Microsoft. It becomes clear that Saylor perceives Bitcoin's significance not merely in terms of financial growth but as a powerful force of empowerment for individuals across the globe. In essence, Saylor's insights encapsulate a vision of Bitcoin's evolving role beyond financial markets, influencing the global landscape and empowering individuals on an unprecedented scale. For more Daily Dose Crypto news, check out these 2 awesome videos on your screen. Click now and we will see you on the next video.